is the government committed to meeting the nationally determined contribution?
Yes, that remains our priority.
Okay. And is all of that NDC going to be met domestically?
Well, we have said that we're not prepared to spend billions of dollars sending money offshore to meet that NDC.
Is all of that NDC going to be met domestically or not?
We are working very hard to ensure that our priority of domestic climate action is met, and you will have seen that we have both achieved the first emissions budget, are on track to achieve the second, and are making very good progress.
Are you, as Minister of Finance, committed to making transparent the potential liability under the NDC on the next budget? I
refer the member to page 25 of the financial statements, and I would read this very clear sentence. The judgment to not recognise a liability, which is both Treasury's judgment and a judgment assessed and approved by the Office of the Auditor-General, is formed on the view that there is no legal obligation to achieve the NDCs, nor has there been a constructive obligation to meet the targets.
That you have full discretion over whether this potential liability is represented on the books. I am saying, as the co-leader of the Green Party, that I would love for it to be represented on the books. That's a starting point for cross-partisanship agreement on this. Do you, as Minister of Finance, believe that there should be that transparency afforded to New Zealanders for sake of financial responsibility to have that represented on the books, regardless of what Treasury is saying about the legal obligation?
No.
When do you accept that your current fiscal strategy is a doom loop?
I disagree with the member's characterisation. In fact, I would encourage you to read the Reserve Bank's recent monetary policy statement, which makes clear that significant reductions in interest rates are ensuring that more New Zealanders are actually able to borrow for a mortgage. We currently have, and I know the member cares about this, the highest number of first home buyers in the market than we have had in several years. And I think that reflects the fact that when interest rates are lower, it does afford people with lower incomes to enter the housing market. And that is a positive thing. As we look ahead, independent economists, including those at the Reserve Bank and elsewhere, are forecasting that inflation is set to go lower than it currently is, which means fewer price rises for New Zealanders who have struggled with the cost of living. And it also is forecasting faster growth, which of course will allow for more job creation and income growth. Those are positive things. I don't deny for a minute that it has been a very difficult several years for many New Zealanders in this economy. But what I would highlight for the member is that the sugar rush economics, which allowed inflation to hit generational highs and be sustained at those levels for a long time, has done a huge amount of damage to our economy. We are recovering from that. It will require ongoing discipline from the government. We can never again return to the days of reckless spending that has damaged our economy, it has damaged our books, it has damaged our...
I guess the counterfactual to that...
Final sup.
Yeah, I guess the counterfactual to that would be reckless cuts, which in turn mean that we potentially end up needing to borrow more. Are you ruling out that you will need to borrow more?
I completely disagree with that member's analysis. We have not been reckless. We have been careful and targeted. And what I'd also highlight is that that actually means we borrow less. The simple reality is that if we hadn't made the efficiencies in the public service, the changes to policy settings, the country would be far, far further in debt. We would likely be paying much higher interest rates, and we would be more in the hock to international lenders than we are today. This government has reintroduced fiscal prudence, and it couldn't have come soon enough.
I just wanted to ask about those other debts, the ones that aren't represented on our books. For example, the costs of inequality and intergenerational harm of enabling more homelessness, more climate changing emissions, and tolerating greater child poverty as a result of the government decisions that you've made. Are you measuring or tracking any of those things, and do you have concern for them?
A couple of things. First, on tax reduction. I find it ironic that the member is claiming concern for households who find themselves indebted or struggling, and yet she would have rejected tax reduction for those very households.
We've got other plans.
And we ensured that that tax reduction was targeted at middle-income families, particularly those with high childcare costs, and particularly those on working for families and those who needed additional support. Without those tax reductions, there is no doubt many New Zealand households would be a lot worse off today. Second, there is a philosophical point here, which is what is the best way to ensure that a family has the independence, choices and opportunities that I think we all around this table want them to have. Well, our view is that actually you need to build an economy that creates sustainable work opportunities. You need to educate their kids better. And you don't actually help them by saying our hope for you is a life on welfare with an ever higher benefit. That is no way to prosperity. Well, you promote universal welfare payments. And I'm sorry, but the kind of New Zealand that I want to see is one actually where we have universal jobs.
We're going to go to a primary question. Someone who's been characteristically quiet, Waititi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that introduction. The government has borrowed another $33 billion, and with no catastrophe, no COVID, no whakaari, no earthquakes. Can you just explain to me why there is a higher, why the debt is worse to GDP ratio in decades? Can you explain that to us, please?
Yes, I can, and it's a very good question. And every time members along that side tell me I'm wrong to have made savings, I think they need to listen to the answer to this question. Because it is the case that New Zealand, in a time of lower growth, does need to borrow to do things like deliver education and health services. Now, we do have a choice. We could say, actually, no, it's more important that we immediately get the books back to balance. And what that would require would be significant reductions in service delivery across the economy. Our government has rejected that course. Instead, what we've set is a steady path to getting the books back into balance, which will ensure that over the medium term, we can achieve debt reduction. I think we've struck the right balance at every term. When we've delivered savings, we've had people jump up and say, how dare they? It is the case that if we hadn't made those difficult choices, the debt would be a lot worse.